What's the worst scandal to happen at your school? My high school guidance counselor freaked a science teacher's wife and everyone knew about it. They got a divorce. Both teachers still work at the same school to this day, and students will never ever let it go. The story has been handed down from year to year. Kids are brutal. We must never let our history die, must we? I wonder if history repeated itself or if it was a one-time thing. Kid in my class sent an email to the White House, threatening to kill Socks, the Clintons' cat. Secret Service showed up a few days later after they tracked down the computer. Did he get any punishment? Lifetime ban from ever working for the government. He was on the military track too, but they ripped up his contract. Probably for the best. Don't freak with cats. A kid in my senior year short story class, who sat directly behind me, was charged with the stabbing, beheading and burning of one of his friends /drug dealer. I remember the day like it was yesterday, sitting in my short story class when my teacher came in tears because she just heard the news. Students didn't find out about it until later. I actually have a friend who testified in his trial because he purchased the murdering materials at the hardware store she worked at. Crazy, man. Long story short, the principal got arrested for hiding cameras in the bathroom. This was back in elementary. He was a total freaking creep. When in middle school, the school forced us to give our phones to the vice principal, and they would stay there locked during the day. They got stolen. Around 120 smartphones. Edit. Changed president to principal. Please don't bully me anymore, LMAO. This locking up can backfire. One year we got together and all agreed to set an alarm on our phones for the same time, at max volume. After that they just said the phones had to be turned off, though. Nope, should have set them 2 to 5 minutes apart, so they don't go quiet at the same time. First week of high school. Hey class, the first section was swim. Wasn't my class, but the class after. This kid was playing a game with his friends in the water, who could hold their breath the longest. He was going up for air and hit head on the pointy part of the gutter, and never made it to the surface. Friends didn't notice, teacher didn't notice. Eventually football players coming back to the locker rooms noticed. He ended up dying. Teacher was fired, although I wouldn't fully blame him as he was attending and teaching kids who didn't know how to swim or weren't strong swimmers. One adult for over 60 kids. That's the school's fault. I understand the teacher not noticing, but the friends who were directly competing with the kid didn't notice. Must have thought he was pretty darn good at breath holding. Still holds the school record. 2 things. Both in middle school. Was at home on a Sunday watching the news with my mom when all of a sudden my 6th grade teacher's mugshot showed up, and it said that she and her husband were pulled over and they found like 6 pounds of high-grade weed, lead to a search warrant for their home, and they literally slept in inflatable mattresses. The whole house was a growth op. She did look like a hippie, but I don't understand, she was not mellow at all. She was a bitch. In 8th grade, one of my friend's parents had cancer. He thought it was a good idea to bring some of their meds to school and hand them out like candy. These were strong meds, and not all of them were pain pills. At least 5 kids overdosed, 2 of them had seizures, no one died thankfully. I was in 8th grade at the time, but the high school I would be attending the next year had a massive hazing scandal that made international news overnight. A group of junior girls trying to join the Powder Puffs went to play football against the seniors. Instead of playing, they got the shit kicked out of them, were forced to sit in a huddle on the ground while paint and animal intestines were thrown at them, and one girl even had a bucket put over her head as it was hit with baseball bats. I heard later on she suffered permanent hearing loss. Someone recorded it. This was before smartphones, so someone had a literal camcorder and released it to the media. The senior girls that were identified were suspended, many of them losing college admissions, and some parents were arrested when it was found out they supplied alcohol. When I started high school, we had to endure multiple school assemblies every year about how hazing is bad, and participate in week-long seminars about being more caring and considerate of our fellow students. A girl in my middle school was telling people she had a hit list of people she was going to kill. Got caught with the list, and was sent to a hospital for a while. She came back a few years later in high school. I also had a hit list in middle school because I was a dumbass. It was a group of about 30 guys that would come to school and play a kind of tag game. If you were tagged during the day, you were assassinated and the game was over until the next day. My dumbass made a hit list with everyone's name on it. Needless to say, this alerted the principal. A girl died in the pool during an event at the school. The swim teacher was blamed and was prosecuted. The girl who died was at my sister's class. Both were 7 at the time. That happened over 10 years ago, but the parents haven't had another child since. She was their only kid. Probably the time a girl gave a guy a BJ in the bathroom. The guy filmed it and sent it to his friend. His friend sent all around the school. Eventually the police had to get involved because the one guy was guilty of distribution of child pornography. Had something similar happen at my school, but since it was a private Catholic school, the girl was brought in front of the whole school board for essentially a trial and was expelled. The boys didn't even get detention. That's freaked up. My scenario was like the opposite. One guy was expelled, the other suspended, and the girl didn't get anything. This was in a public Catholic school, so I don't know. History teacher disappeared in the night with the French teacher's wife, and the other French teacher made national news for sexually abusing boys. Well, French is the language of love. Yeah, I can imagine speaking French was a big part of the attraction. Probably lots of fraternized flirting, which led to more time spent together and eventually a full-on relationship. And the rest? Well, the rest is history. I was in 4th or 5th grade and someone sketched in the middle school bathroom not to go on school Friday, or I will bang bang. This was then brought to the attention of the county and state police, and we didn't have school that day, and the police searched everyone's lockers for a firearm. We had a few. Some standouts. Student hid a pregnancy from her parents. She ended up giving birth at home and killed the baby. Teacher sexually harassed students. Students engaged in sexual acts at the nearby church, where all our masses occurred, and we, the student body, were then banned for having our masses at the church. My school district gave all high school students laptops that they could bring home with them to use for school work. They could also remotely activate the webcams and spy on students, although of course they didn't tell us this. One kid got caught smoking weed this way while he was in his room at home, and I think was going to get suspended. He sued the district in response for invasion of privacy and won the case. It got national media attention for a little while. I remember when this hit the news. It always amazed me that at multiple points in the decision-making process people thought, yes, this is okay. It's totally acceptable to spy on children, or anyone really, in their bedrooms. Multiple adults had to know about this and at least tacitly agree that this was okay. Someone's job duties that they accepted was to spy on children to catch them in compromising situations in the privacy of their home. just amazing. This kid was taking his GCSEs, important exams in England, until you get older and realize they mean freak all. Whilst at an exam, some kids got onto his phone, went onto his notes and found a 4,000-word document consisting of his sexual fantasies with other girls in his year. Clearly paid attention in English, as there was some clever wordplay, for example comparing his cock to some world-famous landmarks. The screenshots found their way into a lot of group chats. There were about 20-odd screenshots. To put into context how long it was, and it basically acted as a vague repellent for the rest of his time at the school. My former high school got on the news for having a history teacher lie for 4 years about being a decorated war hero. Guy claimed to have not 1, but 2 Purple Hearts, among other things, and never even served a day in the military. Edit: I can't directly link to articles because of doxing, but I'm sure you can find it on Google. The truth came out when his ex-wife exposed him, sending evidence he was making it all up to local news stations and the school, for example receipts from military stores for actual Purple Hearts. Why'd she do it? The history teacher was having an affair with another teacher in my school. We had a lot of weird teachers at my school, but I think this story shows just how much the administration hardly vetted teachers, like holy shit. We also had a guidance counselor get the boot for being a racist, but that's another story that didn't get as much publicity.